So my life is relatively easy because I'm just going to follow on with the previous panel, which was phenomenal. And I'm just going to continue in terms of how we think about the investment in mental health and what do we have in terms of challenges and opportunities. Because it's an interesting time in terms of the investment environment. Doesn't mean that it's not going to be productive. It's just a question of how you approach that. And I want to break up a little bit about the way we present. So let me first mention why I'm here, why I'm presenting. I spent about 25 years in drug development, working for large companies, small companies, took about 6 products to market. 2 of them were global blockbusters, about $1 billion in sales, and others were small but impactful. Worked for the Gates Foundation, and then last 2 years I spent time working for a company called Atai, and I manage portfolio companies. And currently I am investing as well as serving as an advisor for funds and for companies. The way I think about investment into mental health and biotech, let's see if it works. There is a distinct difference between running a pharmaceutical company where you have the FDA approving your product versus you establishing something which doesn't require that. Very different efforts. Doesn't require so much of capital if you're running a smaller size clinic versus if you want to establish a larger clinical trial biotech company. So the picture which we have, the mosaic, is that you got to have all pieces which are going to fit in. You want to find the right group of people, right environment, right partnership, which is going to help you with this process. Given unlimited time, everybody can achieve it. Unfortunately, time is a very limited resource in our business. You don't really have that much of a runway capital-wise and competition-wise. So finding the right team from the beginning, establishing it, I think that would be the key. Understanding your investment needs, understanding how you're going to work with investors. I think these are the key questions which one has to ask himself or herself before starting anything. And in this diagram, success is it's relatively simple. Can you have the right investors? Do you have the right market? And do you have the right customer? Can you find that kind of pattern? Is it possible for you to do that or not? How would you achieve it? So with that, I want to really present the panel who is going to speak, because each of us have a unique piece of that puzzle which is required for success. And we'll start with Adam. Adam, if you can just give a little introduction about yourself.
Sure. Hello, everybody. My name is Adam Wilkins, and I am a mental health advocate. I'm an insurance broker. I help with risk management, which is a big piece, I think, of the puzzle that we're talking about. So what I help to provide for companies in this space, addressing insurable exposures, so directors and officers liability is big for companies that are starting out or already established, and particularly in this space with clinical trials happening, clinical trials liability, things of that nature. I guess that's it for the moment. I'm sure I'll have more to say shortly.
Thank you. Gary, if you may.
Hello.
The man and the legend.
My name is Gary Zmutze. I represent Longevity. That's an early-stage investment vehicle that invests in longevity-related early-stage startups, diagnostics, AI for drug discovery, personalized medicine, and of course mental health as a most important part of healthy human lifespan. So happy to be here and to spot some light on the investment landscape in mental health.
Thank you so much. Michael?
Hi, my name is Michael Snitkowski. I spent the last 20 or so years in pharmaceutical product development, working for large multinational biotech companies, also working for very small startups, 2 people, founder and I. We've done everything from product identification, raising money for the companies, to taking drugs all the way through the clinical trials, through regulatory pathway to commercialization and beyond. I'm here for a couple of reasons. Over the last few years, I've been able to help quite a few startups, not only put together the fundamentals to help them put good strategic organization structure into their company to ensure future success, and also help them raise money and better function as a company.
All right, thank you. So I would have a question for the panel. I have experience from the inception of the company all the way to market approvals, commercialization of drugs. What would you say is the beginning for a company? Where does it start?
You mean the startup in the field, right?
Well, somebody comes out to you and says, hey, Gary, I need about $1 billion for my company, right?
Yeah. Okay, so of course, first that we're looking is the founder, the personality, and his ability to drive this process. Then we are actually, as a fund, we are mostly focused on the innovations. So we need a real innovation in the drug or therapeutic. But it's important to define. I think there are three pillars that we are looking at. The first is lifestyle applications that are easy, that we see more and more in the market, targeting everything like sleep, well-being, fitness, etc. That's like a first layer. Second layer is repurposing of existing compounds for the new targets. And a good example here is our portfolio company, Freedom Biosciences, for example. They do ketamine, generic ketamine. And the third pillar is new compounds that we are looking at. So yeah, I think these three pillars are most important.
Thank you, Gary. So, if I may say, so one of the interesting words which you use as a definition, like how do you define the company? Somebody comes to you and say, well, I want to build something, and in your mind is the investor, like, well, how much capital would it require? Would I be able to support it myself, or would I need to have collaboration, synergy with somebody, right? Because you have to have syndication at some point, unless you're going to incubate the company all the way through the exit for the company. And the amount of money required for a new chemical entity, very different from establishing something which is already repurposing the drug. It's not the same. Do you see that entrepreneurs understand that? Or you have to walk them through that?
Some of them, yes. I mean, when we're talking about therapeutics, that usually these are spin-offs from big universities. So they already have grants secured, IP in place, team in place. So that's usually it's an investable vehicle. So the good thing is that here in therapeutics, there are no random people. Like there are usually professionals that already spend many years, like yourself, in the industry, deciding to spin off a company. So that's the best case scenario for us. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, we're happy to support other entrepreneurs that want to build something important in other two pillars. Talking about repurposing, I think the new applications like AI for drug discovery, that can make a significant changes in the existing models.
Absolutely, thank you. So now I want to shift attention to Michael, because one of the good qualities he has is that he spent all of his life fixing somebody else's problems in the drug industry. He would come to a phenomenal company, and he would have to help them to achieve success. Because somehow, even though they qualified, spend all their life doing so on, they make mistakes. Could you just share one of the war stories from your past? You don't have to name a company, you're welcome to, right? Sure. Just make sure there are investors right there in the audience. They may use this information. Just saying, right?
Actually, I have a relatively recent example. About 6 months ago, I got a call from friend of a friend of a friend, and he was supporting a company that raised untold amounts of money and spent it on the clinical trials. They've recruited almost 400 people, which is fairly significant size for the clinical trial. They've tested those people in multiple indications for many different diseases, but not a single one of those groups is large enough to have a statistically significant data set to submit it to the FDA. So now you have a company that spent over 70 million of investors' dollars, have incredible amount of data, and they cannot use this data for anything. they have good safety data, but they cannot show that the drug actually works in any of the indications that they wanted to target. So making sure that the company has the right protocol, making sure that you have the right clinical trial design is super, super critical. You may approach your investors, you may be able to raise an untold amount of money because you really have an amazing compound. And this client that I have now, they do have an amazing compound, but their approach, they are on the verge of going bankrupt only because, again, they misspent the money. They did not properly plan.
That's beautiful. So if I may rephrase it a little bit, right? What it sounds to me like is that your friends just made somebody like Gary's life $70 million lighter, right? Because somebody had to come up with the $70 million. It was not out of their pockets. Right. And $70 million is a sizable amount of money for you?
It's sizable, but I don't think we're going to deploy this amount of money if there is no clear structure of clinical trials.
To me, what I'm trying to come up with is that I'm, as an entrepreneur, I believe in my product, right? Otherwise, why would I start a company? I fully believe that there are a lot of people in the audience who will start companies and be successful. I think the difficulty is that how many people spend 20, 25 years making mistakes? Because your job as a consultant in the past, right? You were fixing somebody else's mistakes and you've seen them all over again. You understand that particular side. Gary definitely understands his side. Adam is in a great position to protect directors and officers to make sure that they're not going to be sued by the investors, right? That's primarily the purpose. If you just can...
Yeah, that's certainly the purpose of a directors and officers liability policy. But Michael, when you're talking about what you experienced, I mean, we could have also been very helpful there too, you know, thinking about the protocols and what they look like and, you know, advising on how best to handle those challenges. And you should have called me.
Yeah? And just to bring it, to connect the dots, or I can throw facts up in the air, is that to succeed in the business, which is mental health, whether it requires new drug or just creating a clinic, whatever you're trying to create, it's important to think, what is the definition of that success which you're building? What exactly is that, right? How much money from Gary and investors it would require? Do you have the right strategy? How you get from your idea to the next point? And Michael seems to be doing it. You've done it, right? How many companies you've seen which didn't make mistake in whatever they did?
I don't think there's a single company that has not
And you
made
work for
mistakes.
companies like Biogen and so on, right? So big companies, a lot of good scientists. What is missing, in my opinion, is that pieces of the puzzle working together. Some people do too much. Some companies do too much. They just do a lot, and they burn too much cash, which is not necessarily required. Some companies do too little. So that oversight, bringing pieces together, is crucial. And that will make companies successful. Or at least probability of success is going to go significantly higher versus burning investors' cash. Then you have to come to Gary again and say, hey, I made a small mistake. It cost you $70 million, but I need another 70. Would you give it to me?
Is it a question?
Yeah, I'm open to suggestions. I mean, my pockets can take 70 mil, no problem. I have a bank account which can take it. But seriously, do you have entrepreneurs who would come to you after they burn the cash and they ask for additional funds because they need to run the company?
We've seen entrepreneurs that failed with their previous startups and they starting
within
new
this
ventures.
single startup. So they raise capital.
I don't think that's a sustainable model for drug discovery, for sure.
That's right? So it doesn't work this way. Precisely, right? You have to deliver on what you promised to investors to be able to raise additional capital.
Yeah, but I don't think the company can be able to raise 70 million without a clear strategy. No one will give this money.
I can put together a very nice strategy for you. You shouldn't worry about that. Can you execute upon that? That's the question.
Of course.
Right? So,
You know, if I could add something to this. So, you're absolutely right. Going back to investors and say, you know, we failed, we need more money, it's really, really challenging. What I've seen, and again, in a specific example that I gave earlier, if you hire the right consultants who can find the good plan how to potentially make a turnaround, because, you know, yes, you don't want to go after the sunk money, but if you can invest maybe an additional relatively small amount of money and you can potentially fix the situation, you know, there's a way to raise more money. And with this company, we have been able to raise additional funds.
sounds like you're speaking from your personal experience by looking into your eyes, right? So finding the right group of people who will be helping you to achieve what you want to achieve would be the key. We have time left. We can definitely just shoot questions among each other, or if there is any question from the audience, we can take one, or a couple of questions, if anybody has interest. Do we have this inquisitive friend of ours? Yeah, I see somebody who may ask a question. Do you mind if I pass the microphone? So there is a gentleman in the second row. He has questions all the time. No, second. Come. Yeah, that guy right there, right? Yeah. I'm positive he can ask a question. Get ready. It's not going to be easy for anyone, but it's going to be lots of fun. All right.
You got this, Toro.
Vitaly, you're really putting me on the spot here.
I have to do it once in a while, right? Because you're a great person.
Should I maybe break into song since I can't think of
No,
a question?
No. We're not into that. No. Straight to business, please, Doran.
All right. That's a good suggestion. The idea is I should ask you for $70 million. Second best question might be to ask you all on the panel, what are some of the worst mistakes that you've seen executives commit as they work on bringing to the market psychedelic drugs?
Anybody has interest?
Okay, my favorite but worst mistake is actually very big runways for some companies. They're paying extremely high salaries to their employees. That's where they burn a lot of cash on that. So that's where I'm as an investor, I have this gut feeling when the founder is just funding his own runway rather than the company. That's one. And then everything we discussed before with this example of 70 million, like still we prefer to invest, milestone based. So one after another and slightly, slightly raising the valuation of the company. So yeah, I have some examples that I would like not to voice here. But yeah, I think from my perspective, biggest mistake is actually structuring the team, because that's I think the most important, especially in the early stage where we invest, because we invest in founders rather than.
Need to.
Kind of tone it down in terms of that burn rate because of the inherent risk. I'd like to know from you, how was it one molecule with multiple indications? Phase 2 data, multiple indications?
So it was a complex project. They have actually two novel medicine molecules, and that they wanted to administer as a combination medicine. So imagine, again, if you think about the costs, each molecule has to be tested separately together, and the approach showed them that this molecule could be effective in a wide variety of indications. So
are you talking about something small called Keytruda, which is what, $40 billion a year market?
I'm talking about actually colorectal cancer, which is a huge indication, but there are many other cancers that have similar pathways. So instead of focusing on one, maybe two pathways, so two indications, they focused on 15. So each subgroup was extremely small, and the data was not usable.
Ouch.
And the focus here is very important.
Yeah, there was no focus, exactly.
So that leads me to another question, and it's for Adam. Whenever you're ready, right? So what is the biggest challenge when you're dealing with risk management within psychedelic industry? Because it's, if I'm not mistaken, it's relatively new for the insurance business.
Yeah, I mean,
How do you underwrite that risk?
It's a great question. I mean, the answer is it's very difficult, right? Because insurance, don't fall asleep on me, guys, please. But insurance is based on, they price insurance based on loss history. And in the absence of loss history, you're looking for a first mover from an insurance carrier to say, hey, I'm willing to underwrite this. You're also expecting or asking that underwriter to listen to what you say after you say the word psilocybin, because there's so much stigma around these psychedelics and this emerging space that right off the bat, carriers are just like, I'm not interested. But I've been working very diligently, and I think ultimately we're going to be very successful in finding some partners, particularly like the newest exposure that I think needs to be addressed immediately is the psilocybin professional and products liability in Oregon, because that system is up and running, and there's a lot of there's carriers out there offering illusory coverage which does nothing for anyone. But if we have a willing carrier partner to offer terms that are reasonable, it's going to help that industry, if you will, grow and protect and help people ultimately, which is my goal, and I think the goal of most of us in this room. So I think that answered your question, but I'm not positive. Did I get there?
In my opinion, you did, but you can ask the audience. So, since we started on that, so we have multiple aspects: investment, insurance, running the company of a sort, right? I also have, since Deborah Mash is present and she volunteered to speak, can somebody give you a mic? Would you take the mic? Would you be so kind? So we have a wonderful example of the very successful person who started very early in psychedelic industry, one of the earliest ever, right? Because you started in the...
He's giving away my age, okay?
She was at the age of 2 when she started getting involved in the psychedelic industry. And she started a company. So would you share the challenges you have as the founder of a company? What is the major challenge for you as a founder? Do you get support which you need? You need to have more infrastructure. What could we possibly do to make your life easier? Because you have everybody here on the panel, myself included, who are here for somebody like you, the inventor. I would really appreciate if you could share your opinion.
Vic, that's a multifactorial question.
I've never given you any easy questions, right? We've known each other for a couple of years.
There's nothing, I think, I started in 1993 with taking Ibogaine before the FDA. And it's been one-stop burden every step of the way, and I've raised funds multiple times for both the molecule, the psychedelic, and an active metabolite. But the most important, and I came from academia, and we are not good drug developers. When you come as an academic laboratory person and start a company, it's a whole nother landscape. So I was fortunate because I had Springboard. They launched Women Entrepreneurs, and they taught me about doing an elevator pitch and how to put a budget together and how to do an investor deck. But it's so important to have leadership early on. The D&O policy, major issue. Getting insurance over a psychedelic clinic that I started in the Caribbean a long time ago, how I wrote the informed consent, how I knew how to get an informed consent that would stick with my insurance carriers, not having an issue with my insurance carriers, very important. I started a company, was thrown out of a company that I was a founder of, went back into a company, got rid of the board, served proxies, cleaned up the board and management, and reinvented myself. I put my company through Chapter 11. There was no roadmap for me, so having strategic leaders like the 3 gentlemen up here and Vic, super important. So thank you, everything you do for us. We need you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah Mash. Thank you for tying it all together. Thank you so much. So we have a question from the audience. Do you mind introducing yourself?
Of course. My name is Bruno, and I'm co-founder of a startup, Anibiome. And as a co-founder of startup, I have a question. Maybe for Gary, you are a partner in VC. So what would make us founders to take and consider longevity as a partner? What is your superpower? What makes you the best early stage longevity VC out there?
That's a great question, Gary.
Thank you, Bruno.
You're already on the spot, so all you have to do is to speak, right? It's easy.
Yeah, so I think we are famous in the industry with our rigorous due diligence. We have 15 people full-time, 3 PhDs, so we are actually helping you as a startup also maybe to get rid of some problems you have, right? And to be investable for other VCs as well. We have a stellar advisory board, including Nobel Prize laureate in chemistry Michael Levitt and former and existing C-level executives from Roche, Novartis, so we can give our portfolio companies also some connections in this field, as well as we, just for free, we help them with PR and using our PR firms for their needs. So all that said, I think that's why startups want to work with us.
Thank you, Gary. Just to conclude, because we have the time. It takes a village to bring a person. I think it takes significantly more. I think it takes the whole city to build successful company. And all those pieces are important. Finding those pieces, identifying them early on, spending time, not rushing, not trying to create a lot of shortcuts, because they will catch up with you later on. As somebody used to say, you got to pay the piper in the beginning or in the end. With that, I want to conclude and thank you for being here and choosing our panel versus multitude of those. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, man.